Hi everyone, Michael from Doing Life Together. Hope you are safe and well. Today we are continuing our look at change. How do we do it? What does it look like? How do we explore new possibilities as human beings, as individuals, as classrooms, schools, families, and communities? Especially in this COVID-19 season. This season that, yes, has a lot of challenge and a lot of things that all of us are having to work through. And we have to remind ourselves that we are in this together. But also a season that gives us an unprecedented opportunity to slow down, to stop and to think, what do we want to be about as a family? What do we want to value as a classroom? What do we want our daily rhythm to look like as a school, as a team or community? This is a really significant opportunity for us as human beings. So, today we want to look at just a couple of tips, a couple of things that need to be in place, that we need to work on, some foundations, if you will, for our family, for our school, for our community, whatever our context, to be able to build a solid environment, a solid way to move forward. The first thing is this: every family, every school, every classroom need to work out what they value most. They need to ask the question, what's important to them? What has currency to their lives? What has value to what they want to see happen in the world, happen in their family, happen in their school context? So that question of what do we value is really important. And it's more than just, having a couple of words that we throw on a board or throw up somewhere where people can see them. It's having a really significant conversation, a time to explore, to go, okay, what do we value? What do we hold most dear? And this can be done using a range of tools. You can use your Kimochis, your feelings deck. You can use a whole heap of craft activities. You can use games. You can use all sorts of ways to do this, to have this conversation. In a family environment around the dinner table is an awesome time to be talking about what do you value most as a family? What do you want to see done differently in this world, in your community? What do you want to see change? Tapping into people's passions is a great one to look at this as well. What do people get worked up about? And what I mean by that is not worked up in a bad way, but what do they get on fire about, passionate about, to see different, to see change? Because when you tap into those conversations, you start to dig a little deeper as to what does that person, that family, that school value. So values are really important. Out of our values, what we then find is we start to define, well, what's our vision? What's our purpose? What's our reason for getting up in the morning? Why do we get up? Why do we do what we do? Why do we go to school? Why do we sit in this classroom? Why do we try and learn? Why do we exist as a family? Why do we ABC? Formulating our vision, our purpose from our values is important, because what it says then is our day-to-day kind of purpose, going about life, is attached, comes all the way back to what we value as a family, as a school, as a classroom. Once we determine then what our vision or our purpose is, and there's a thousand ways you could do that, and sing out if you'd like some more ideas, then it becomes important to start going, okay, if we value this, if this is going to be our vision, then what practices do we need to put in place? Daily shared practices that we all do, that we all go about doing each day to bring this value, bring this purpose, bring this vision to life. So, for example, if we value showing compassion and grace to other people, and our vision from that is to create a family that when people journey with us, when people connect with us, they experience compassion and grace. Or to create a classroom environment where someone comes into our environment, they experience this sense of compassion, of being seen for who they are and what they have to offer. Then what practices do we have to put in place to make those things come to life? One of the practices we like to talk about in that space, and it might be helpful for you, is this idea of seeing people through eyes of compassion. Now, often what we do as human beings, we all do this, is as soon as we see someone, we use our broken window and we start to think, what's wrong with them? What works, what doesn't work. So we start to really deconstruct people and start to think in all sorts of ways that aren't really that helpful. But when we look at someone through the eyes of compassion, then we actually start to see them for who they are, what they have to offer, the value and worth they have just for simply being, and all their gifts and abilities and capacities. We start to see people very differently. That's a practice we could take on as a family, as a classroom, as a school, as a team, as an organisation. In fact, the way you can practice that is by sitting in a group and actually having pairs of people look at each other through a broken window and then through the eyes of compassion and start to talk around how that's different, what you see, what you notice. You can take people for a walk through the local park as a family or through the shopping centre, or as a school, you can go out into the yard and you can get people again to look through their window or their eyes of compassion and start to go, what do I notice about people when I'm looking at them in this way? What do I see? It can be a great way to start building that value. Now, I'm not saying you have to have that value at all, although it is a good one, but there are so many different values out there. But what I'm saying is we need to have a practice, a shared practice that allows us to put that value, that purpose, that vision into action. So shared practice is really important. Coaching each other in that shared practice is really important as well. Committing to that shared practice. Having a bit of an agreement together as a family, as a school, as a classroom, as an organisation, as a team. These are the things we're agreeing to. These are the 3 practices that we're going to do every day, because these practices relate back to our vision, our purpose, which relates back to our values and what we want to see change, what we actually want to see happen in our world, in our community, in our space. So, once we get to that point, when we are intentional about doing these practices each day, debriefing with each other, reflecting, changing them if we need to, what it starts to do in our school, in our classroom, in our staff room, in our family, is we start to develop a culture. We start to develop an identity. And so when someone connects with our family, they experience us in a certain way. When people connect with us as a classroom, they experience us in a certain way. When they connect with us as a team, they experience us in a certain way. So identifying our values creates our vision, it creates our purpose for change, our purpose for doing, our day-to-day rhythm starts to come together when we put together shared practices, things we can practice that bring those visions, those purposes, those values to reality, to action. And in doing so, we create a culture, we create an identity that people experience with us. And within that, the final thing we want to say is it's so important that we continue in all of that to nurture belonging, connection, compassion, understanding, and love. If we can nurture those things, as well as working on those other tips we just talked about, then we start to create families that people want to spend time with. We start to create classrooms where people can't leave because they think this is amazing. I want to be here. We start creating communities where we care for people, where we open up, where we start to see life on life looking a little bit different, starting to take a different route. We start to open ourselves up to want to change, to want to grow, to want to develop. This is a powerful place to be. So there you go, a couple of tips, a couple of tools that we like to use when we're working with schools, families, communities, whatever it might be, to navigate this idea of who are we and who do we want to be. We hope they're helpful for you. We hope they foster some conversations. Share your stories with us. Have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you again real soon.